Okay, you can start when you like.
What made you start writing it?
I really can't remember it so long ago. I think I'd been reading a lot of New Zealand fiction for some reason or other. And I thought, oh, gosh, I'll give it a go. See what happens. I think that's what it was.
How long ago was this?
So long I don't like to count the years. I was in my early 20s.
And you've gone on writing all this time and not published things?
Not really, no. To be quite honest, I haven't written anything. Committed anything to paper, that is, for several years. Various reasons.
And is it true what Pat says, that you've got lots and lots of stories?
Yeah, quite a few. Yeah, because I did write pretty steadily for quite a long time. I didn't keep them all, but what I have kept, a substantial number of stories worth keeping.
And why haven't you sent them to be published?
Well, I have had some published. Yeah.
You have? Because I've sort of looked for your name in the various things that I've been through, and I haven't sort of found any of your stories.
Well, this was, as I say, it was in the early days. Now, I haven't had many published, and I'd have to sort of think, I haven't had a volume published.
Yeah.
And the one that I've just read, no, I haven't had published.
Are you thinking maybe of sending it away to be published?
Well, I had the bright idea of one day, I had the bright hopes of one day having a volume published. And maybe this was a mistake, and I don't know what other people's experience had been, but I thought, right, well, I will write and collect some kind of a volume of short stories that hang together. So I did that, and when I decided to do that, I stopped sending things to magazines.
Because you wanted to hold on to them to keep them for the volume?
Yeah. And it seemed a pretty good idea. No one was very interested in the volume. They all said, why don't you send them to magazines?
Yes.
And I thought, oh, blow, because I suppose really that there's no harm done, and I know a lot of people do it, that they have their work published in magazines, and then they get it all together and they have it published as a book. But it is nice to pick up a book and read, to pick up and read a book which you've not read before.
Yes. And all the work of one person, and so you can follow the sort of various threads that go right through. When I'm reading something, I'd rather do that, if I got a book out of the library or bought a book, I wouldn't want to get home and find that I had in fact read it in bits and pieces, But that's just my idea, and it didn't turn out to be such a very good one after all. It might be a good idea to try again.
Yes,
after a gap.
Yes, like perhaps after another gap, I'll try again. Could try again.
Are there themes that go right through all your stories?
Yeah, I suppose. Yes, I suppose you can call it a theme, but probably, all writing is about the theme of personal relationships. Some people write about hills and trees and sky and the private life of the eel, or the private life of the rabbit. But it is hard, I think, to write anything without writing about some kind of a relationship.
And also without writing out of yourself as well.
How do you mean?
Well, I had a friend who wrote a story about India, and she'd never been to India.
Oh, yeah.
And she said, so what she ended up doing was that she wrote, because she didn't know what the externals in India were like, she just wrote a story about what was going on in people's heads, because she didn't know they were travelling in the train and she didn't know what was outside. So you have to write about things you've seen or things you've felt.
Yeah.
Things you can imagine other people seeing or feeling quite easily.
Yes, yes. Yeah, because, the crux of the matter is what the people are doing, not what's on the other side of the window. Or, no, this can all add to it, yeah. It can all add to it. But for me, writing is more about people and relationships and whatever adds to the picture. But otherwise, you're not writing an article for the National Geographic, are you?
No.
Nor are you writing some essay for a psychological magazine.
Yeah. Did you find, like, Pat, that you just write in the middle of family and what's going on in the family? I was really interested that she says that she writes while all the children are actually there, and I think I find it very hard to concentrate in that situation. It must be...
Well, for me, the writing consists of two processes, You get an idea, and this, you develop this, or it grows like topsy, or blooms in the spring, or occasionally just sort of, dies prematurely. But that, on that level, that writing, you can do that anywhere or nowhere. But I mean, because it's internal, you can do it while you're washing the dishes, while you're chopping the wood, while you're serving at the dinner.
So you're just following the idea in your head?
Yeah. And this is the core of the matter. And this is not so much a question of can you do it. Once the process starts, the question is can you stop it? And you don't attempt to, you see, so that you go around and you do all kinds of things like putting coffee in the teapot when you really want to make cocoa. People think you're a bit strange, but this is one level of writing, so that is being done no matter what you're doing, you see, at home. If you're having to put in so many man-hours at a job, well, that might be quite a different story. But the mechanical part of writing, the actual setting down on paper by pen or pencil or typewriter, and remembering to put in, working up the length of, the sentence and the capital letters and the commas and the full stops and the hyphens or not or whatever, that I found I could not do in the middle of any kind of a hurly-burly. I had to retire for that process.
And you still find that the same?
Yeah.
It isn't something you can learn with practice to do it in the middle of hurly-burly?
No, I don't think I could. I would find it so difficult that I think I would become so impossible, that it wouldn't be a question of my retiring from the scene. I think everyone would just go and leave me. Because I would be so grumpy, to put it mildly.
Was it ever strange knowing that Hilary was writing and that James was writing in the same house? I mean, were all three of you writing?
No, not all three of us were. And no, it was really fun, because how far have you got? Nearly there. Oh, I'm in the middle. I'm stuck in the middle. Well, let's have a cup of coffee, and this could be 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. I finished. Right, put the jug on quick. I've got another page to go.
Yeah. Oh, so that must have been really quite stimulating.
Yeah. Oh, no, it was fine. Yeah. Oh, I can remember one night and the joy of writing that particular story, because I enjoyed every minute of it, and it was very late at night. And Jim had been working, he finished early. And when I finished, I was cold, I was tired, but I was so happy. And I was starving. And I remember, I forgot what it was, bacon and eggs or scrambled eggs on toast or, in the middle of the night.
A real midnight feast.
Yeah, celebration.
And has it made a difference to your own work of being married to somebody who's been so well known? And has it been one reason why perhaps you haven't published things as much?
It was a bit difficult. I can remember, when I had one or two things coming out in small magazines, and people would say, I don't know whether they were just being so naive or, perhaps a bit niggly, bitchy if you like, but, oh, and how much of it is really yours?
Oh, they didn't.
Or does he correct it for you, Do you find that you need any help? And now, whose idea was it really? It used to irritate me, and sometimes it would hurt me depending on who the person was. I mean, sometimes, you don't much care what some people say to you. Others you care a lot. There was no question of competition. This didn't come into it because, I was just writing on one level and to begin with, just because I enjoyed doing it, Later it became a bit more serious, but there was still never competition because he was writing on a different level altogether, and he had nothing to. It would be ridiculous to try and see him as being in competition with me. And I could never ever see myself as being in competition with him because it was just so different, the two things that we were trying to do. But of course the outside world sees things from a different point of view. I don't think it's the first time I can think of other couples where one party was writing before the relationship was formed, and after some time together, the second party started writing, and it did nothing to harm the relationship, and both ended up, sort of both writing and very, well, I suppose you can tell, happy about it.
It's because very often it seems to me, my husband is a painter, and it would make it very hard for me to start painting because I feel, well, there was somebody who's so good, and I was just starting, and so I've always sort of avoided that. And so I think it's a very brave thing to start writing when you're in a household with somebody who is already writing, or most women, I think, who are living with a man who's very accomplished, to feel that anything you do is as important. I think it's sometimes very hard, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And we had our moments, but the thing is, you see now, I don't think I would have started writing verse. Now, this would have been different, or plays. This would have been different. The first writing I did, and that was before I met my husband, the only writing I did had been verse.
Oh, really?
Pretty mediocre stuff at that. I don't think I've kept more than about 2 or 3 of them that sort of accidentally got published. And it honestly, it had absolutely nothing to do with my husband. It was this business of reading for a particular purpose. I had to read a whole lot of New Zealand fiction. And I hadn't read much up to that date, so say in my early 20s. I had read more poetry than fiction. And it was an eye-opener to me, And I was I thought, goodness me, this is really something. And then afterwards I thought, gosh, let's have a crack at that.
What did you actually see when you read them all? What was the reason that you were reading them for?
Well, for two reasons. It was related with some work I was doing at Varsity. And also, I was asked to do a certain amount of book reviewing, And I can remember some of the books that I reviewed not very long ago. I had to look up some of those book reviews, and I got a shock because I'd forgotten I'd written the reviews. I'd forgotten even that I'd read the books. But some of them still stick with me, Yeah, that's why how it started.
And what sort of feeling did you get from the things that you'd read? Did you sort of suddenly realise that there was a tradition of writing in New Zealand that you hadn't realised before?
Oh, yes, and it was a way of looking at the country. I think really then, and I mean, gosh, I was in my early 20s, I wasn't a teenager. I wasn't, I don't know how I'd have managed to miss it for so long. I think it was actually through that reading period that I became aware of New Zealand, It was like seeing it for the first time. I'm talking now, the sort of authors I'm talking about, who are now, I wouldn't say the golden oldies exactly, but I read Sargison for the first time, and Dan Devon, Catherine Mansfield, and, well, I was going to say that's enough.
Yes,
it was enough
all
to
at one
wake,
go.
It was enough to wake me up, and John Mulligan, report on experience.
Did you have a background in Maori oral literature?
No, I didn't.
Nothing at
No,
all?
not at all. Nothing. No Maori language.
I often wonder
I had read some earlier things, I'm thinking of Satchel, The Greenstone Dawn, Mary's Last Stand. I had read those at an earlier date. But I don't know what it would be like for anybody now if they had to, for some reason, sit down and read all of Sargent. That's enough.
Yes,
it was enough
all
to
at one
wake,
go.
It was enough to wake me up, And John Mulligan, report on experience.
Did you have a background in Maori oral literature?
No, I didn't.
Nothing at
No,
all?
not at all. Nothing. No Maori language.
I often wonder
I had read some earlier things, I'm thinking of Satchel, The Greenstone Dawn, Mary's Last Stand. I had read those at an earlier date. But I don't know what it would be like for anybody now if they had to, for some reason, sit down and read all of Sargent, all of Devon, and all of Catherine Mansfield, and anything written about those people, and to do nothing else but just simply soak yourself in them. I think it would still, you'd come out feeling pretty groggy. It would give you a punch.
Yeah, especially if you hadn't had any
Because they
contact
pack
with
a punch, eh?
Yes.
They pack a punch.
Yeah.
I can remember now, and that is years ago, I can remember how I felt after I read Sargison's story, The Fair of the Heart. And that summer...
Was it a whole different feeling about the New Zealand landscape or about the people as well?
And about the people. And how that anyone, could manage to make it come alive, really come alive on printed page, so that you could feel him when he got into the taxi after his mate had died. And he said to the taxi driver, I want a Sheila. I'll never forget that feeling, I thought, of course.
And it seemed like people that you knew as well.
Yeah.
A lovely feeling of recognition, which...
And for me, this is what really good prose does. It doesn't matter if it's prose fiction, it doesn't matter. But real writing will do this to a person. You're not quite the same after you've read it.
Because you've seen something that you actually haven't seen before, and you never see it quite the same again.
It changes you, It may mean you're having to look at something that you've known all your life, but you look at it from a different point of view, or you may be seeing something that you've never seen before.